I never lose, either I win or I learn. Those are my only options, to whomever it may concern. About to be a hot topic, play with fire, you get burned. Ain't nobody give me nothing, whatever I got, better I earn. I never lose, but I learn. I either win or I
Thank you for
learn.
listening to the
Those are my
Strong
only
AF
options.
podcast.
This episode is brought to you by our Weight Loss Transformation Masterclass. After spending over 30 years of my life being obese and dealing with chronic constipation issues, I decided to get my certification in fitness, nutrition, and wellness to empower myself to lose over 70 pounds and keep it off.
Watching my brother and dad have a heart attack within weeks of each other, I knew I had to make a change, but I wasn't sure what to do. After researching and studying to get my certification in fitness, nutrition, and weight loss management, I was able to use this knowledge I gained to lose over 80 pounds and keep it off.
Now we're passionate about helping others to avoid the same mistakes that we made and changing the world through holistic health and wellness. So our approach is focused on mindset because overall health, including our mental health, means everything to us.
Imagine waking up with more energy than you imagined possible, no longer worrying about digestive issues and bloating.
We're here to show you how to ditch the fad diets and make small changes in your lifestyle, which will make a massive impact on your quality of life.
These are changes that you will be able to pass on for generations to come. Go to veganstrongandfit.com/masterclass today to sign up for your free masterclass and get started on a happier, healthier journey.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Strong AF podcast. I am Ashley.
I'm Yuri.
And we're so excited because we're bringing back two of our favorite guests. If you have listened back through our other episodes, you may remember Jennifer and Stephanie Pagewise, who are quantum relationship coaches. They work with the LGBTQ plus community, and they are just absolutely incredible. We wanted to really talk parenting tonight, and that's why we brought them back on, because together they raised their 17-year-old son. And I am telling you, children are tough, but we make it through, don't we, ladies?
We do. We definitely make it through.
It's certainly an exciting time of life, isn't it?
It is. So I'm really excited to have y'all on, because this way we get to have that full spectrum, because, you know, we've got the younger children, and yours is 17, ready to about to go off. And so, you know,
God can only hope.
That's something you have this conversation with your kids. Like our 9-year-old, he's like, "Why are you always so hard on me? Why this and that?" And I tell him, "Do you know what my job is?" And he's like, "To buy me food and to do this and that." So yeah, that's kind of the necessity part of it. But the main part is I'm preparing you to be a man out in this world. That way that you're prepared when you get out there and nobody just runs you over. You don't come running us panicking, "Oh my God, what do I do? How do I do this?" And everything. We're just preparing you to be out in this world where you can make a positive contribution to humanity.
Exactly.
Absolutely. You know, I think that even our son, who is 17, still sometimes has moments where he doesn't fully understand that. You know, he understands more of it now than he did maybe when he was 9, like your oldest son. But even to this day, you know, that I word of independence just scares the daylights out of him.
Yeah,
It really does.
It's funny though, because it's two sides. He wants to be treated like a man and be able to make man choices. But then when we give him the freedom to be that, he starts getting wiggy. It's so funny.
Yes, exactly. It's like, "Mom, I want to do this. I want to make my own decisions. I want to wear this." Okay, that's fine. But then as soon as you're like, "Okay, you go get dressed by yourself," and they're like, "But Mom, I want you to put my shorts on." "But why? Because yesterday you wanted to pick out your own clothes. So why today do you want me to put your clothes on you?" You're,
Right.
you're 4 years old. You know how to put your clothes on.
Right.
Right.
And like, for our son, for years, he couldn't wait until he was old enough to drive. And, then he got to the age where it was time, and we weren't quite ready to let him yet at 16. But then for his 17th birthday, we surprised him with the booklet to get his learner's permit. We wrote a check out for driving school. And that was like his birthday present. And he looked at us and he's like, "You want me to drive?" And here we are. He turned 17 in April and he hasn't even opened that book. He doesn't even want to get his driving permit.
Yeah.
He wants to be able to back the car up, like if it's in the way.
Of the garbage cans.
Yeah, if it's in the way of the garbage cans, can I back it up 5 feet? That's about his speed. That's about all he wants to do. So he wants 5 feet of independence right now. That's it.
That's so funny.
It really is. It's just
You know what that reminds me of though? Like when we were planning on having kids and things like that, and we were like planning the timing of it, and it's always like, all right, you ready? You want me to go off the pill? You ready to do this? And then, because knowing we weren't quite ready yet, and the other person would say no. But as soon as they're like, yeah, I think it's good, then it's like, oh, are you sure? Like, are you sure?
you
we're ready?
sure? Uh-huh.
Yep.
So even as adults, we still,
Mhm.
We waffle.
we waffle.
Yeah.
We do. It's that dream, and I feel like that fantasy and that feeling that you're excited about. But then as soon as you realize everything that comes along with what you're wanting and you're ready to make that step, you're like, oh crap, do I really want to do this?
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
You start thinking beyond it. And I mean, as entrepreneurs, all of us have, we've dreamed of doing these entrepreneurial activities. And then we get here and it's like, oh, am I going to be able to sustain this? Just like with parenting, it's like, oh, it's really great
Right.
idea to have a baby, but I have to do this for like the rest of my life because it never stops.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, our son's going to be 18, but that doesn't mean we stop being his parents.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and we
Yeah.
can only hope that we've been a good influence and that he wants to keep talking to us. And so far, so good with ours. He'll stomp off every once in a while, but it lasts maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
He's a little
Right.
unusual for a 17-year-old, honestly.
That's awesome. I think that what makes this great too, this whole conversation, is also the step parenting aspect of this and how you handle that, because that's something that I grew up, as a child coming into that, but I haven't experienced it as a parent. So what kind of tips can you give other parents who are coming into a blended family and how to really make that work?
Ooh, it's interesting. When we started out, I came into their life when Ian was 5 years old. And so Jen had been the single parent for like 4 years.
Right. Yeah. I left my previous relationship when he was only 15 months old.
Wow.
So he didn't remember anything but me being a
Mhm.
single parent
Yeah.
when I
So-
met Stephanie.
So nobody else was the boss of that boy, just Jen. And they were tight, very tight. And so the first thing I did is I did not insert myself as a person of authority.
Mhm.
She became his playmate.
I really did. And I'm a pretty good playmate. I'm pretty goofy. So it was easy, but I didn't become his friend so much that like we were equals, but I became an adult person who was someone who could be a mentor, but not a parent.
Right.
I left a lot of the big stuff to Jen. Like even when we were cohabitating and stuff, she kind of had the trump card. She was bio mom. And for a long time, I did not push that. I would give my opinion and then let her do with it what she would. And I think that's really important for step parents. If we come in all gangbusters and try to be the other parent, especially if there is another parent. So in this situation, Jen was the only parent. There wasn't another parent in the picture. But
Mhm.
especially, so if you're a man coming in to be with another woman or another man, and that person's children have a second parent, don't go in there and try and get in the middle of it because it's going to explode.
Right.
Everybody's gonna have hate in your guts. Seriously, you will not have any friends at the party at that point.
I can speak from experience from that, because the way, when my mom got remarried and he came in and was very authoritative, and it's like, I don't know you.
Right. Who are you?
Yeah. Why are you talking to me like this? Because I don't know you like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It put a wedge in our relationship from the very beginning, not only with me and my stepdad, but also with me and my mom, because I was like, why is she just letting him talk to me like this?
Right. Why isn't she standing up for me?
Yeah.
Right.
It is. It's really hard. I mean, it's a very fine line. There's a balance there because, thankfully we have very similar beliefs and parenting styles. So that really helped also. But on the same note, as Stephanie said, she allowed me to still make those decisions.
Right.
So for our son, he still knew that if I said so, it was so.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was ever a time that Stephanie and I disagreed, we never disagreed in front of him. That's another piece that's really important. Unless it wasn't, the code was this.
Mm-hmm.
If it was an emergency and we felt someone was in danger, it was okay for someone to jump in and disagree in front of the child. But if it wasn't an emergency and there was no 911 situation, then we let the situation play out. And then she and I would talk about it separately and say, okay, how could we have done something differently here? Or what should we have done differently?
Yes.
We never let him triangulate us because he tried.
Boy, did he try.
He tried.
That was his favorite game.
Because the other thing that, to keep in mind too, is our son is neurodivergent. So he has high functioning autism. He wasn't diagnosed until almost 14 with that. He was diagnosed at 4 with ADHD. And that was a misdiagnosis because a lot of times high functioning autism and ADHD have very similar presentation at that age. And especially when it's a high functioning autism, he's not what most people think of Rain Man. That is not our son. 95% of the time, most people would never even know he has a disability. It's that 5% of the time where it's like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah.
What just happened there?
It's almost mystifying. Even for us, sometimes it's like, what's happening?
What's happening? What just happened? Did he get overstimulated? What's going on?
Yes.
So, again, we always had to make sure that we didn't let him triangulate us because, children do that and they'll do that even with bio parents.
Yeah.
Your children do that.
Yes, that I don't think that's anything special to blended families. That's with us as well. They'll go ask daddy something, and then if he's out of the room, they're like, "Hey, mommy, can I do this?" And I'm like, "Pretty sure I just heard your dad tell you no." So that's the answer.
Yeah, those
right.
If worst thing, you may not even know it. You come in and he'll ask you, "If I can do this," like, "Yeah, you go ahead," and then she'll walk back in. "Why are you doing this?" I told him you could do that. And then it's like, so you're trying to play both.
Right.
She already told you no, but
now you're in double trouble.
Now you're in double trouble. So you learn to say, well, did you ask?
Exactly.
So,
and my favorite tool for parenting is honestly my phone, because like you said, you don't want to have those disagreements in front of them, but sometimes I'm like, okay, hey, maybe we could handle this another way, but like, they don't have to know what I'm doing. You know?
Right.
They don't know.
Right. Right. As I said, we always made sure that, unless it was like we felt it was an emergency, that someone was really acting inappropriately. And there's times that we lose our temper. I mean, we're human. Yeah, we are human, and we do sometimes blow a fuse. And so then, it would be like, okay, wait a minute. Jen, go take a timeout. Let me deal with this. Or Steph, you know what? Why don't you go take a timeout and let me deal with this? And we would do that. But, very rarely did we ever disagree in front of him, because that just gave him fuel.
Exactly. They know they can pit each other, you against each other at that point. And then it just really, it's not just bad for the children, like it becomes bad against your relationship as well.
It does, because parenting's not an easy thing. It puts a lot of stress on a marriage,
Yes, it
and
does.
so I mean, God bless you guys, you have 3. We only have 1. And we know how stressful that can be.
It can be stressful. And like you guys know, we decided to get into the homeschooling territory as well over the COVID period. And honestly, there were several different reasons for that. I feel like number one, you hear so many crazy stories now about assault, rape, guns, violence in school. Our 9-year-old had gotten picked on several times at school. Somebody had slammed his face into the bus seat. So, I mean, we had several different situations where we talked to the principal, things weren't changing. The worst part, and when we decided to pull him out, is actually when they were doing remote learning, and we could hear the conversations between him and the teacher. He expressed something that he had learned watching a documentary, and the teacher said, "Quit lying."
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was it. Like, I was like,
We're
I
done
don't
with
feel
this.
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to let them express their opinion. You can maybe disagree or say, "Oh, okay, where did you learn that from? I haven't
Right.
heard that before." There are many different ways to handle that other than to tell the child that they're lying.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
We started homeschooling our son before COVID, because our son graduated during COVID. I mean, he graduated high school in 2020 during the COVID time. And we started homeschooling him when he was in 7th grade. And again, bad situation at school. He wasn't yet diagnosed with autism. And his autism sometimes shows up as anxiety.
Yes.
And so he was having difficulty in class doing the assignment. And when he can't do something, his anxiety shuts him down. That's just what happens. So it makes it look like he's not listening or
he's
being oppositional. So the teacher sent him off to the principal for insubordination, and he got written up for it. And then the next day it happened again. And this time they put him in school suspension for it. They didn't even call me to tell me what was going on. He got off the bus that day and told me he's.
Oh no, you guys froze up.
Because he couldn't do. Are you back?
Yeah, you guys froze up. You said that he got off the bus that day.
He got off the bus that day and told me that he'd spent all day in school suspension for insubordination. And it was his English teacher. And he had trouble writing. I mean, he has dysgraphia. So it's a diagnosis. It's not that he's being lazy.
Right.
And so I went in the next day and said, "What are we going to do about this?" And they're like, "No, he was insubordinate. And if he does it again, next time it'll be a full suspension on his record. And he'll be suspended for 3 days." This was in 7th grade. And I'm like, "All right, we're done." I walked out the door and he never went back. So, all these things that go on. And this was public school. And this was a highly rated public school. It wasn't like an inner city school that you might expect bad behavior. This was, an A-rated school.
Yeah, we had the same situation. We had a charter school that he was going to, I mean, it's crazy just the things that you hear going on. And to actually be able to witness that like you did and like we did with the remote, there was no way that I could send him back into school after that. And honestly, just like you said, so our son does have ADHD. We had him on medication for a while because he was getting in trouble all the time at school, but that just made him, he was not himself. He was totally down.
Having a hard time eating.
He lost so much weight. We took him off of it. And to be honest, I didn't know how he would do, being at home all the time, not taking that medication. He has done so good. He has almost finished. He decided that he wanted to do his schoolwork over the summer. He's almost finished his 5th grade curriculum.
Wow.
And he's 9 years old. Like, this is, insane. And he's going above and beyond. He's doing all these extensive research projects and reports and
but you're supporting him.
It's crazy.
You're supporting him and you're cheering him on. You're not saying you're lying because you learned something outside of what the teacher's teaching.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's crazy, and I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that all school is bad.
No, not
it's
at
not.
all.
We know many teachers that are amazing.
Yes.
But not all children learn the same way.
Exactly.
And when you have 30 children in one classroom
Hmm.
and you have a child that learns a little bit differently,
Yes.
problems happen.
Yeah.
Well, and if you think about it, you put someone who has ADHD, which really means that they struggle to understand what they need to pay attention to.
Hmm.
It's not that they don't have attention, they don't know what to attend to.
Yes.
So there's 31 beings, maybe 32 or 33 if there's paraprofessionals in there, all doing something.
Yes.
So they don't know what to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you know what to attend to when
Mhm.
there's all of these things going on? Noises, people breathing, someone coughing, someone sneezing, the
Yeah.
teacher talking. And with all those other things going on, it's the Peanuts teacher up there.
Mhm.
Wah, 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 wah. Because it's so far away.
Yeah.
They just
Exactly.
can't.
And our son with his sensory issues,
Same thing.
the noise.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
just could not focus on the teacher because he'd hear someone chomping on gum over here,
Yes.
Tapping a pencil.
tapping a pencil over here,
Mhm.
or someone, in middle school that didn't put their deodorant on and they smell and that's bothering him
Yes.
because his sense of smell. I mean,
It's
anything.
everything.
It was
I
just
feel like
way
you're
too much
talking
for
about
him.
me. I tell Yuri all the time, there'll be the TV on, the kids are talking, they're doing class over here, I hear music, and then I'm trying to work and I'm like, I can't take all this noise.
Right.
There's too much, like it can't, it's not even loud, it's not like,
It's just
like
all
I can
these
go to a
different things.
concert and be fine. Yeah.
Right.
'Cause it's
But
all
there's
one
only
sound.
one thing you're doing.
Yes. But if I
Yes.
hear all these things, like seriously, my head will feel like it's about to explode. I get this
Yeah.
panic attack. So I completely understand. I can't
Sensory
imagine.
overload.
It's a sensory overload.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And lots of our kids have that.
Mhm.
And then they're classified as behavior problems.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times we were told that he was a behavior problem. Our kid doesn't have behavior problems. We know what that looks like.
Mhm.
And yes, we are fully aware that he is a pain in the neck a lot of times, but he is not someone who's going to throw a desk.
Right.
He's not someone who's going to be mean to anybody.
Right.
It's just not him.
He's not a kid who has no empathy, who has those, tendencies of not caring what they do to other people.
Right.
No,
Ugh.
he just
Yeah.
has, autism, and
Mhm.
that makes his world different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that leads us to a good question. What forms of punishment or discipline do you believe in? Because that is one of the hardest things, I think, in our parenting. I feel like we've gone through everything, and I'm like, I don't. Sometimes I feel like so wishy-washy, and I don't know what to do. But
It's tough.
it's hard.
It is tough.
Yeah.
I can tell you from my upbringing as a child, my mother believed in corporal punishment. I mean, I think that may have been that generation a lot more so, that they believed, spare the rod, spoil the child, right? Isn't
Right.
that the saying?
Yeah.
So, I got spanked, and I
Mhm.
got spanked more than I probably should have been. So my belief when I became a parent was, I am not going to be that parent,
Mm.
because I don't think that it did anything for me except make me afraid of my mother. It didn't teach me to respect her. I was just afraid, and I didn't want my child to be afraid. Plus the fact that, he came out screaming and came out as this just bundle of energy. And if, I even tapped him on the hand, he would tap me back. So what was I teaching him?
Right. Yeah.
That, okay, if I hit you, it's okay, you hit me back. So
Yeah.
there wasn't going to be any of that. So there's 2 times in his whole life that I spanked his bottom, and both times when he still had diaper on, and both times it's because he started to run out into a parking lot of traffic, and it was a matter of, oh my God, my kid's going to die
Right.
because someone's going to hit him. So I don't believe in corporal punishment. That's my belief, and some people do.
Mhm.
But for our son, it never worked.
Yeah.
We went through the whole thing with token economies of, you're going to earn something for your good behavior. So
Right.
we're going to encourage good behavior and not look at the bad behavior.
Mhm.
That always ended up failing too, because he'd lose interest.
Right.
He just wasn't motivated by
Or they
getting
begin
things.
to expect the rewards. That was
Right.
kind of our thing. It was like,
Mhm.
okay, so when am I going to get that cookie, or when am I going to get that toy? When am I going to get that prize? And I'm like,
Right,
no.
Right. So the only thing that we have ever found that works for our son is to take away what he likes, unfortunately. That's the only thing that works. And that always has been his electronics, because we live in an age of electronics. I mean, it just
Oh,
is.
yeah.
So, you don't do your chores, you don't get your Xbox.
Yeah.
You do something bad, and then we're gonna take away. And that is always the only thing. And
That is, yeah, we went through, went through a really tough time with him after that last time that we pulled him out of school. It was that like 12 to 14-year-old, and we were part of a program called the ZEF program, multi-systemic therapy. And it really gave us permission to set really clear boundaries for this kid.
like clear,
Like crystal clear. We had grids on the walls that if you're allowed to have these snacks at this time, you don't get to choose everything.
and if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're going to get an apple,
not a brownie.
not a brownie. And that was okay. We were like, we can do that. They're like, you're not starving him.
Right.
You're just not giving him his favorite treat.
Yes.
Or you're going to say, you can't have that Gatorade, but you can have a glass of water.
Yeah.
You're not taking away his sustenance.
Right.
You're just saying, if you don't do what we ask you to do, you're not going to get the good stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he had really become, he was almost a bully to us.
Mm-hmm.
We had let him get away with things. He was always able, because, he's kind of differently abled. So we wanted to make sure that he was always drinking. So he always got whatever he wanted to drink, because the kid literally can dehydrate himself.
Yeah.
He's been on IV fluid by dehydrating himself.
Because he refused to drink anything. So,
oh my gosh.
So he had us.
Yeah.
Oh, he had us by the short hairs.
Right.
And he was
chores
starting to
weren't
act
getting
out.
done.
Nothing.
Schoolwork wasn't getting done. I mean, he was just refusing to do everything. And we were like, how do we make a kid do something that he doesn't want to do?
Yeah.
When these are things like, you have to participate in this house. If you're going to live here, then you need to take out the garbage.
Right.
Because that's something that your age allows you to be able to do. We're not going to ask him to do a chore that was above and beyond his capability, but he still needed to participate and not just sit around and make a mess and expect us to wait on him hand and foot.
Yeah.
And that's what had happened for a while.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I am very, very committed to that everybody who lives in the house is a member of this household and needs to participate. You do not get a pass because you have autism. You don't get a pass because you're a kid. You participate at your level. If you are 2 years old, then you participate at a 2-year-old level.
Right.
Right. As you said, Yuri, our job is to prepare them to become adults and to be, good citizens of this world. And if we don't teach them as children, then what are they going to be as adults?
Exactly.
Yes.
They're going to feel like outsiders.
Most definitely.
So even if we don't even think about like citizenry and growing them up to be able to join the workforce, we don't want our kids to feel like outsiders.
Right.
And if they're always sitting on the couch while the rest of the family's doing something, they're letting themselves be an outsider and we're endorsing that.
Yes.
So
That
we
sounds
need.
That sounds like a conversation I have with my older brother when we're discussing our kids. It's like, if they don't see this from me, if they don't see their dad doing this, they're gonna go out to this stranger and ask them something, and we may not like that answer that stranger gives them, where it's going to be harmful for someone else, where they're giving them this aggressive style of things, where the advice we would give them is more relaxing, more communication, and more understanding that everyone out there is not going to think the way that you think. Everyone else may just know aggressive style of something, where if you mention something to them, they take that the wrong way and they get upset and start to get violent. Where you're the peaceful one and you understand, okay, you can have that.
Mhm.
I'm good. You're right. I'm gonna just walk away.
But I
Mhm.
think that's sometimes the hardest part of parenting, right? Because sometimes, like, we know we need to give them this advice. We know we need to handle things in a different way, maybe redirection or whatever the case may be. But you know what? All of that takes effort. And sometimes when I have worked all day long, I may not always feel like putting in that effort. And that's where
Yes.
I'm not excusing it at all on my end or anything. But sometimes I just want to be like, just listen and go sit down. And then I'm like, no, I need to explain to you why what you're doing is wrong. But sometimes, like, it can be really easy to fall into that. Listen, y'all, I'm tired. Just leave me alone. Just go sit down. Just
Right.
Yeah.
stop for
Just-
a minute.
It's not
Just
even
listen
that.
because I said so.
Right.
Exactly. You just
Yes.
took the words right out of my
Yes.
mouth. That's all I was thinking. Like when I was younger, I would ask my mom or would think about it because I was smart enough not to ask her because I knew what would happen.
Right.
That famous words, because I said so.
Because I said so.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say we never say it, but we've tried
No.
really hard not to
Right.
say it. And the reason is because, like, I don't want our kids going out into the world and somebody tells them to do something and they're just like, okay, I should do it because I was told to do this. No, I want them to be able to critically think and to understand and process
Right.
what they've heard, what they know about life, and to make a decision that's based on their education and their knowledge, and not just do something because someone told them to do that.
Right.
And I don't want
Right.
to ingrain that into their brain that they just have
Yeah.
to listen.
Right. Just because someone said so, you
Yeah.
better do it. Right.
Exactly.
But I also think it's okay to just call a timeout with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, mommy's tired, daddy's tired. It's been a long day. And I think you're tired too. So it's just time for a timeout.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not
And-
going to talk about why. We're just going to take it.
right.
Period.
And we'll talk
Yeah.
about this tomorrow
Mhm.
or another time when we're all better rested and we can
Yeah.
have a conversation as to why things have to go this way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I know you have some really little ones. And so but they're not going to understand a lot of the stuff at the
Right.
moment anyway. But your bigger
Yeah.
ones, you can have a conversation about that tomorrow.
Exactly.
You can come back to them tomorrow. It's like, and say, have you ever just been at the end of a long day and you're just out of patience?
Mhm.
That's where I was last night. And thank you so much for just doing the timeout.
Right.
And they get timeout. They
Yeah.
understand that.
Oh yeah.
And I think that some of those small things that we can do are brilliant and that they get. And sometimes we use too many words.
We do.
We explain
I
too
do.
much.
Yes, especially
Right. We do.
I do too.
I over explain all
I
the time.
do.
And I can see my son flogging over and I'm just
Mhm.
like, okay, enough.
Yes.
Yes.
We had a friend of ours who works with she's a social worker and she works with children and many adopted children. So there's some relational issues. And she taught us this acronym that was brilliant. And it's the word wait.
Mhm.
Why am I talking? I'm like, wow.
Yep.
Because there are times where we just are doing this and that's all it is to our son,
Especially if he's upset.
especially if he's upset.
It's just the peanuts teacher.
So we have to remind ourselves, why am I talking? We have to tell him, okay, we're going to hold space for you.
Mhm.
We're going to let you do what you need to do to decompress. And then we'll come back to the table and we'll talk about it. Because when he is overly anything, we can't. We
Mhm.
have to give him the time.
Just like we need the time sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. We have to give it to him as well.
And
Yes.
at this point, at 17, he's starting to realize that when I say, you're just going to have to give me some time on this, he actually can now.
Yeah.
Whereas even a year ago, he needed me to solve whatever was going on.
Mhm.
And now I can be like, look, you're not going to like my answer right now. So I suggest you go take a half an hour,
And come back.
do whatever you want. I truly
Mhm.
don't care right now. If it's a video game, honestly, just get out of my space because
Yeah.
I'm about to lose it and you're not going to like it if I lose it on
Yes.
you. He loses it. So he knows what that's like.
Mhm.
So we do try to just like speak when we're all kind of in that emotional upheaval.
Yeah.
We just try and own it big
Right.
time.
And that's the other point that I think is really important is that I don't want my son to put us on a pedestal. he needs to realize that we're human too, and that we make
Mhm.
mistakes, and that we have times where we're overstimulated, or that we've had too much and we need our time out. And we also can go and say to him, you know what, maybe we didn't handle this perfectly and we're sorry.
Mhm.
Because I don't want him to ever think just because mom says so, it's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I make mistakes too.
Yes.
And he needs to know that. And I think that's an important part of parenting, is that we
Yeah.
can own when maybe we reacted inappropriately or could have done it differently. And I can say to him, you know what? I'm sorry that I
Mhm.
reacted this way or I responded this way. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
And what can we do differently next time? Because I
We
don't
just
want him
talked
to
about this last night.
That's one of the things Ashley kind of helped me with learning, is to actually admit and go into one of our sons and saying, just face to face and being truthful with him and saying, hey, my bad. I shouldn't have
Right.
reacted that way. It's uncalled for. I apologize. Do you?
Yeah, because I like after we talked about going on those side conversations. So like after the situation, I feel like that could have been handled differently. And he's like, I know, I feel bad about it, but I didn't mean to overreact. I was just frustrated. I was like, okay, you're telling me, but you need to let him know too. Like it's okay that you got frustrated because he got frustrated too. Just go say something. Let him know.
Because it's like heat of the moment. Like when you're saying it, you can feel it as soon as the word come out of your mouth. I should have said that.
Oh, I
And
shouldn't have
then-
done that.
And then when you're having this conversation and you're at the beginning, you're telling them their story, they're like, okay, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not okay. I need you to understand. I should know better. That's not an excuse for me to behave this way just because I'm your father.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good work.
It really is. It's wonderful work. And that's very humbling. It's not easy to do sometimes because
No, it's not, especially when they've really stepped on every nerve you have.
yes.
It's like sometimes you just don't want to say it, but you have to step up and do that because you want them in return to be able to do that as well whenever they make a mistake.
And
Right.
also think about the respect you just earned.
Yeah.
I mean, that's big potatoes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I can imagine that's huge. You got your dad who's over here apologizing to you. I could imagine how that would feel if, let's say, one of my parents, my mom or dad, would have apologized to me. It would have been like, "Are you okay? Are you
Right. What do you mean you're not always
what's
right?
wrong with you? You're sorry."
Right.
But I also
It
think
is.
there's a difference in apologizing in order, to be respectful to that other person versus just like letting them get one over on you. I feel like my mom always just felt guilty about everything. So when I got a spanking, then it was like she would be in tears, sorry. And that's not, that's a complete other extreme, and you can't do that
Right.
either.
No,
Right.
no, you kind of have to own your stuff.
Yeah,
And she didn't want to own it. She just wanted you to make her feel better.
right.
Right. Don't apologize so that you feel better.
Yeah.
Apologize because you're respecting the other individual.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
owning your responsibility, and that's plain and simple.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah.
For our listeners and viewers, what would be some advice you would have for first-time parents?
Mhm. Communication.
yeah.
You got to have communication between the parents, whether it be two moms, two dads, a mom and a dad, whatever your family is, communicate,
Yeah.
talk to each other. And as I said, one of the biggest things was that unless it was an emergency, we never disagreed with each other in front of the child,
Yeah.
because that just caused triangulation.
Yeah.
And even if the kid didn't want to cause triangulation, it happened.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
If they saw that you
Mhm.
had differing opinions. So, we always made sure that we had really good communication about, what was going on. And after the fact, if we had to make some sort of, whether he had to have, a timeout or his electronics taken away or whatever the case may be, later on, Stephanie and I would talk about it saying, okay,
Mhm.
let's talk about this. And did we handle this well?
Mhm.
Right.
And could we have done something differently? And then we could talk about it. And there was no pointing fingers of you did
Mhm.
this and you did that. No, we looked at the whole situation and everyone's role in it. And how can we maybe look at it differently next time if something
Mhm.
like this happens again?
And if we did something wrong, to go back and fix it.
right.
Mhm.
And if we had to apologize to the child,
Or, if we took away, every once in a while, we would totally overreact and take away the electronics for a week. And the
Yeah.
other would be like,
that was a little overkill.
yeah.
You have
so-
no idea how many times I'm like, if you don't clean this room, I'm throwing everything away.
Right. Or how many times, like, you know what? I'm just going to take that Xbox outside and I'm going to smash
Yeah.
it into pieces.
I'm gonna
Well,
run over it with the car.
we never did that.
Right.
Because
You
I just
know.
end up buying another one.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah. So
I think,
communication.
communication, but also, put your relationship first.
Hmm.
You really must find places for that, and not in place of your parenting role.
Right.
But you must stay strong in love with
Mhm.
each other, because it's so easy. And I remember hearing someone talk about they had their first child, and I was talking to the gentleman of the couple, and he's like, "Yep, she's in love with her son," and I could feel that he felt like an outsider,
Yeah.
and so they weren't attending to their relationship, and the
Hmm.
child was like 3 years old by this time.
Yeah.
So yes, I want her to be in love with her son, but
Mhm.
her husband also has to feel loved. So
I think we can relate to that a lot because so we got married when we were really young. First of all, I was 21 and 22 when we had YJ. So I was already 3 months pregnant at the time that we got married. We were married for 6 months before we had a kid, you know? So it was super rushed, super quick. We were still trying to figure each other out. And
Sure.
then we were also working these crazy schedules. I was finishing college while I was like sitting there holding my baby. I was like
Yep.
finishing the online courses and then also working full time just to try to make everything work. He was working full time, but he was working evening shifts. And so it was just crazy. So I feel like we lost each other a little bit then. And it got to the point where like I remember us being at the pool, right? And I was sitting there playing with YJ and he was standing there and I was like, this is one of those times like you were talking about earlier, everyone has to participate in order to not feel like an outsider. And I felt like at that point in time, I mean, YJ was probably like a year old. And I was like, I don't want you to feel like an outsider. Like, we need to do this together as a family. Like, we need to be doing this together. It's not me and YJ or me and you. Like, it needs to be the three of us.
right.
Right.
That
But there
was
also
something we
needs to
learned early
be
on.
time for the two of you.
Yes.
Exactly.
You can't lose that relationship
Oh,
with
yeah.
the person that you're raising these children with.
And I feel like we didn't learn that until way later than we should have.
And it
But
happens
it's
in
huge.
so
Us too.
Us
Us
too.
too.
Us too.
Yeah.
You get so wrapped up in being a parent that you forget about your relationship as a spouse.
Yeah. It became now I came from a family where I didn't feel valued personally. And I did not want to, I never wanted to have children.
Mhm.
It was when I met Jennifer, I was 36 and I had already had a hysterectomy. So I was pretty darn sure I was never going to have a
Right.
baby. And then I meet this woman who has a 5-year-old and I was freaking terrified because I'm like, I don't want to screw up some kid.
Yeah.
I was terrified. And so I started putting all of my energy into not screwing up.
Mhm.
That was one of the things. Jennifer and I broke up for a couple of years. And I believe that that's one of the things that contributed to it because I wasn't paying attention to what my needs were and certainly not what her needs were because I was solely focused on not screwing up this kid.
Mhm.
It's all I could think about. I would go to sleep at night. Did I screw up today? What can I do better tomorrow? Because I don't want to screw up this kid.
Yeah.
I don't have enough money to send him to therapy for 20 years.
Right.
And I didn't want him to go through the pain that I've gone through.
Yeah.
I don't know how well I've succeeded at that. I mean, even now, I hope that he feels loved. I hope that he knows how much I care about him.
Yeah.
And he knows.
I know, but that was but that we got lost.
We got
Mhm.
lost.
And I think you probably had the same thing. because
Absolutely.
Jen didn't have a great childhood. And I think a lot of her parenting decisions were to not be like her mom and her dad.
Right.
And,
I know.
and so
I think we've kind of gone through that same thing
Yeah.
because so my mom and dad, they got divorced when I was 8, but even up until that time, I don't remember like having family stuff together. You know, it was me and my mom, and my dad was just somewhere
Right.
doing something. And
That was my family too
yeah.
until the divorce.
yeah. And then when my mom dated other guys, they were not nice to me. They weren't nice to her. They took advantage. So I don't feel like I ever had really a family portrayal.
Mhm.
You know, even when we got married, I had my grandpa walk me down the aisle because I felt a closer connection to him.
Mhm.
And so, and Yuri had the same kind of situation where his dad wasn't in the picture.
Yeah, because I know for me and my brother, it was just pretty much the three of us, me, my older brother, and my mom. We never saw that father figure. What's it like to have a male role model in the house, or somebody who teaches you how to be a man, what that looks like, where you're pretty much learning from this actor on TV or this celebrity, this music,
Right.
this rapper, this R&B singer that you look up to, or something like that, and that can steer you down the wrong path if that's your idol, if that's your role model. But like the famous saying goes, be careful who you call a role model, because a lot of these models out here playing roles.
Mhm.
So you never know what you're watching or who's leading you down this wrong path.
Yep.
Yeah. But you really do need to make sure you find time for
Yeah.
for each other. And, you know, we now, our son is older, so we can do this, but like every other month, we go away at least one night,
That's
just the
awesome.
two of us somewhere.
Mhm.
Even like, I mean, the first time we did it when we left him alone, because it was our first time leaving him alone, we only went 45 minutes away to
Yeah.
a hotel that had a hot tub. That's all I wanted, was somewhere where there was a hot tub where we both could be in the hot tub in the room. It was like an
Yeah.
in-room hot tub, and it was only 45 minutes away. So if there was something that happened, we could quickly get back into the car.
Mhm.
The next time we went 2 hours away, you know,
And stay 2 nights.
and take 2 nights. So, you know, we make sure that we find time for
Right.
us, because
Yeah.
when we are happy as a couple, we are happier as parents.
Yes.
That's one of the other things, since you spoke about that. Like, let's say we have an argument or something, the kid's not in there, but as soon as they walk in there, they can sense that energy.
Mm.
They
They
can feel
do.
something's wrong, and that just everybody's disrupted, everybody's vibrations is just off, where everything is just like, what is went on in here? There's an
Mhm.
argument going on in here. Mom doesn't look happy, dad looks frustrated and stuff like that. So
And
Oh,
it
yeah,
used
they
to
can
be
sense it.
bad because we didn't know how to handle our own conversations. It's gotten a lot better now to where it's like, okay, we have our frustrating moments and our arguments, and then we get through it and we understand each other. And they start to understand, and they're like, yeah, they were frustrated, but they're good. Like they don't have concerns or anything. Like I feel like maybe a few years ago, my son would ask about like divorce and things. Like he would be concerned about that because we would have intense arguments.
Mhm.
And now they're just like, okay, they got frustrated, but they're cool. Like, you know,
Right.
yeah, it's
So-
okay to get a little irritated.
So I have a question for you. Did you talk to the kids about the fact that you guys were having a disagreement?
It wasn't that we talked to them that we had a disagreement, but they could see it on our face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or they could feel the tension because
They felt the
at
tension.
that point in time, it's not like our frustration went away over the night. You know, it carried through to the next day. We were still
Yeah.
irritated with each other, and they could
Yep.
feel that.
Yep.
Whereas now it's like they go to bed, we have our conversation, and
then
then
you get through it.
everything's fine. Yeah,
Everything's fine.
Yep.
And the next morning you wake up and you're back to your old selves again.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our son's the same way. I mean, you know, thankfully now we have some really good communication skills between the two of us. But prior to, you know, being able to figure that out, when the two of us, either one of us would get upset, we would get quiet. So we would shut down. And he would
Mhm.
walk in the room and, you know, the
Nobody's
silence, you could cut it with a knife. And
Yes.
he'd be like, okay, what's going on? You guys aren't even talking. So
Right.
he knew.
Yeah.
He could feel that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and now, he's older, so we can share a little bit more. Like there was a time a few months ago, I had gone to pick him up at work and we were heading back, and he and I have some good conversations in the car when it's just the two of us. And, I was getting out of the car and I'm like, hey, by the way, mom is in a rough mood.
Right.
So do not go in there gangbusters and asking her for stuff and pushing her buttons.
Yeah.
Because you will not like the response. And he looks at me and he's like, I just don't get you. You're all over my butt about stuff, and then you'll warn me about that. I'm like, I'm just a multifaceted individual. What can I say?
Exactly. We do the same thing, because I'm like, listen, your dad, he's got a headache. He's had a headache all day at work. He's going to come home. He's not going to feel like this. Like, I know y'all are not going to be happy. So how about we just take an early night tonight, and then tomorrow we'll go have a day out. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
one of those things. Or if I've had a rough day at work and you're like, I'll just get the kids ready. You don't have to worry about it. Let me
Yep.
get them in bed and we'll just get through this, because sometimes it's just, even though it's like getting them dressed, brushing teeth, and putting them in the bed, that can be difficult, especially with a 2 and a 4-year-old, because it's mommy hugs and kisses, which I love. I love giving the hugs and kisses, but it's the constant, and then the coming back in here and I need to pee. Mom, now I need to go poop.
Ugh.
Mom, I want another hug. Mom, I'm thirsty. It's like, no, like you're
It's
in
like
bed.
herding cats.
Yes.
Read me another story, please. One more, right?
And you'll just get one, you'll get them both down, and then one will get up and then the other has to follow.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. I used to
And
be
as y'all know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was a nanny, and I had 4 kids at one time. And and I would always be by myself when I was nannying. So, oh my gosh, getting
Mhm.
4 of them down. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as y'all know, we're building our house, so we're in this little cramped apartment right now. So
Mhm.
the kids are sharing a bed. So when we put them into bed too, it's when we were in our house before we sold it, they had their individual beds. The 2-year-old went down to sleep like instantly. Our 9-year-old was fine. Now our 4-year-old, he's a night owl, and he's also an early bird. He just doesn't sleep, period. So he riles everybody up. And now that they're all in one room, they're like jumping around on the bed and doing this, and let's throw these blocks, and let's jump on YJ. And it's like, oh my gosh, y'all have to calm down.
Right. Wow.
It's a circus tent at this
It
point.
is. It's just
Yep.
got them all going.
I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll be glad when they all have their own bedrooms again.
Yes, most definitely.
That's something
Yeah.
about parenting. Once you have one child, you may have kind of gotten used to it or something, and then you prepare to have a second child, and you may try some of the things that work for the first child, and you start to realize
There's no
what
preparation.
what worked for my oldest doesn't work for this one. So
Yeah.
now I'm gonna have to try something different, and
Mhm.
everything where we're having 3 different boys, and this works for the oldest, nothing works for the middle. We just tell him to calm down and relax, and he's fine.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's hard work. It's a headache.
it is.
I guess it's
Yeah.
good that I had a challenging child from the beginning, because it made me not want another.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you get a good one and then all of a sudden you get blessed with one that's full of energy, you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what did I just get
Yes.
into?
That happened to
Mhm.
my brother.
That was us.
Yeah, my first niece is just as docile as
Mhm.
anything. I mean, just, oh my gosh. And the second one is hell on wheels.
Yes.
He nicknamed her Spicy Taco when she was born. They had like wrestling names. So the first one was Ferocious Butterfly. Second one was Spicy Taco. And I still tease him. I'm like, you picked the wrong name for her, didn't you? He's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I've been regretting it ever since. She's a chandelier swinger and
Yeah.
she's funny, but oh man, she challenges them every day.
Oh, yes. It's very true what they say about the middle child syndrome. Like, and I feel like he knew he was middle child from the time he was born. He knew there was going to be a third one because he acted that way the whole time.
Yep. That's funny.
I remember one time I went to pick him up at daycare, and Amari was maybe I guess he was about 3 or 4 months old, because he was in daycare for the first time. And I got Cam, and he took out the door, and the school bus would drop off some of the kids there for after school, and he ran out the door into the parking lot. So I'm having to like carry this baby in the baby carrier, running out the door after him to try to keep him from getting hit by a school bus.
Mhm.
And I used to always think those the kid like backpack leashes, I was like, I'd never put my kid on a leash. No, after that, my kid was always on a leash. Every time I picked him up from daycare, he did not leave without a leash.
Yep. You know, and the first time I saw those things, I thought, oh my gosh, how horrible is that?
Right.
But it actually gives them more freedom
Yes.
and
There's nothing
safety.
on their hands, you know, they feel
You're not
loose.
grabbing them.
Right. He had this
Yeah.
cute little dinosaur backpack. He was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
we
my
saw
son
someone with-
wiggled out of it. I
Oh,
tried.
no.
Oh, you would have had to put him in a 12-point harness.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh, he was a handful.
Yeah, he still is some days.
He was a handful. He was
Yeah.
a handful. He was either sleeping or he
Or
was moving.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh.
There was
Yeah.
no in between,
No
you
way.
know.
Mhm.
I mean, but you know, the one I shouldn't say that. I mean, I could take him anywhere as long as I had his bag of toys.
Yeah.
He didn't bother other people's things. So like I could
Mhm.
take him somewhere like, and there could be antiques all over the place and he didn't touch them.
Oh.
Now he'd be buzzing all over the place with his own
Right.
toys, but he didn't touch other people's things.
Mhm.
So I was lucky in that aspect where some kids are just like grabbing everything wherever you go.
Yeah.
He didn't do that.
Mhm.
But he was either sleeping or he was moving
Yeah.
when he was little. And you know, now he sleeps in the morning, other than the days he has to go to work. And I never thought that my kid would ever sleep past 6
That gives
o'clock.
me hope.
Oh,
my
yes.
goodness.
He does. He'll sleep until 10 or 11 o'clock now on his days off. And I was,
Wow.
yeah. So it happens. It does
I-
happen.
Oh, I need that. Okay,
Because
right
he was
now-
up at 5 or 5:30 every
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
our 4-year-old right now, we put him in the bed around 7, 8 o'clock. And the reason we have to do that is because of how long it takes him to go to sleep.
To go to sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, he's actually knocked out right now, which is absolutely amazing. I didn't think that would happen, but he also didn't have a nap today. But generally, even without a nap, it's probably about 10:30 by the time we go to bed that he finally
Finally
falls
falls
asleep.
asleep. Wow.
And then he's up around 5:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And
So he
he's
just,
gone. Yeah, like
he's
he's
not
just-
a big sleeper.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my son too. So you do have hope. It
Whew.
will
Yeah.
change. It
Yep.
will change when the hormones switch
Oh,
and all of
yeah.
a sudden teenage
Yeah.
comes into play. He started sleeping, and I was just like, the first time it started happening, I'm like, oh my God, is he sick? You know, I'd want to
like-
open the door and look, but then I'm like, no, I'm gonna wake him.
Like
The fir-
going back to those baby days and like, oh my gosh, are they breathing? I
Are
don't
they
want to touch
breathing?
you. I don't want to wake you up. But I want to
Can you
make sure
put
you're
those little
alive.
apnea monitors on a 15-year-old foot?
Right. Oh my gosh. So
That's funny.
Camden, our middle child who also is up all night, he had childhood asthma. He hasn't had an asthma attack in about a year and a half now. So I'm
Nice.
super you know, positive that we're out of that phase, but I'm not fully, you know,
Mhm.
assured yet. But at the same time, like as he was growing up, I mean, they started around the time he was a little younger than 6 months, and we were at the hospital at least every month, sometimes every other week because
God,
of
he
this.
sounds like my son.
was-
Same thing.
Terrifying. But because of that, I felt like I spoiled him a lot more, you know, because I was always just terrified that he wasn't going to breathe. And when he had those asthma attacks, like I slept with him constantly. I would
Oh yeah, my
either
son
have
slept
him
with me.
or I'd sleep on the floor because
yeah.
I was just so scared that he wasn't going to breathe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My son slept with me until I met Stephanie because I was so afraid that he
Yes.
would stop breathing during the night.
Yeah.
That at least if I knew it was right next to me,
Yeah.
God forbid. But he even outgrew the asthma, so
Mhm.
there's hope for that too
Yeah.
because he
So
did outgrow
positive.
it.
Yeah.
We
He did
actually
outgrow
found
it.
out, I mean, as you guys know, we're vegan, and we went vegan around the time we went into quarantine last year. But we just found out, what was it, earlier this year, through an allergy test that he's severely allergic to dairy. And that was most likely triggering his asthma.
Yep.
Yes, same thing with
And
my
that
son.
was the time that he quit having asthma attacks.
Funny that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing with my son. He had a casein allergy. It
Mm.
wasn't even the lactose, it was
Yeah.
the protein in
Yes,
in the
that's
milk.
exactly his. Yep.
Same thing.
Weird.
Yeah. Which
Yep.
is funny because I had several allergic reactions to cheese, not all dairy specifically, but around the time I was in high school was the first time it happened. I couldn't breathe, broke out everywhere, couldn't figure out what in the world it was, and I thought I was dying. But I had an allergy to cheese, and so I didn't realize though that had gotten passed on. So yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how, even these little things can cause problems that we don't even
Yes.
realize.
Yeah.
Again, my son too, the asthma. I mean, he had pneumonia numerous times because we just couldn't get the lungs cleared out.
Yeah.
And, it went on. And finally, allergy testing came up that he was severely allergic to the casein. And
Mhm.
as soon as we took him off of that, all of a sudden the asthma started clearing up,
Yeah.
the digestive trouble stopped.
Mhm.
It was
Yes.
like,
Same with
oh.
him. What about did your son have eczema as well? Because
yes.
same. He was covered in
Same thing.
eczema, and that's actually why we took him in because we couldn't get it to stop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's
I
very
haven't
similar
seen a
to
patch of eczema on him in years.
Yeah.
Years.
Nice.
So yeah,
Amazing.
things
Very
do
cool.
change, but it's
Yeah.
amazing that you would not even think that a food allergy would
Right.
cause
All of
asthma.
those different
Yeah.
issues.
I can see maybe a skin rash, but
Right.
asthma,
Mhm.
GI
I mean,
stuff, yes.
the GI stuff, yes, because it's
Right.
digestion, and skin because we do absorb everything we eat, but
Yep.
asthma. Who would have thought that asthma could be
Right.
caused by a food allergy?
Exactly.
And not just, I could see like if it happened right after they ate it, but
Yeah.
no, it was
No.
all the time.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
mean, my kid,
It
the
just
breathing
created
treatments
this-
and the
this
inhalers,
allergic
it
reaction.
caused dental problems from
Mm.
all of the breathing treatments as a
Oh my
baby before he even
gosh.
had teeth in his mouth. That he now has dental problems
Yeah.
from it all. So yeah, I mean,
I
it's
remember
crazy.
not being able to take a vacation without having that little bear, that little nebulizer
The
to go with us.
nebulizer.
Yeah, twice
Yep.
a day, every day. We had to do the steroid to make sure that he was staying healthy, and just hope that he didn't have to have the albuterol. Anytime we went on vacation, I knew where the nearest hospital was. Like it was constant.
Oh, we just lost your. Uh-oh, you're back. You're gone again. There you are. You're back again. Yeah, and even and then the steroids, the problems that causes to their health.
Yes.
And my son's allergic to albuterol. He would go
Oh my
nuts.
gosh.
He would bang his head against the wall. He'd get so
Wow.
agitated from
Yeah.
the albuterol. So all of these things that we then have to
Mhm.
add to their system, which
Yeah.
is causing more problems.
I remember us asking the doctor, I was like, can we please get an oral steroid to keep at home? Because it doesn't matter that I give them the albuterol every time I have to go to the hospital and they have to give him an oral steroid. That's the only way it's opening up his lungs. I said, honestly, I'm tired of paying all this money for a 3 a.m. trip, because every time he would have an asthma attack, it's 3 a.m. in the
3
morning.
a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Right?
And she was like, I trust you to do this, but only give it to him if he absolutely has to, because it can cause all these growth issues. And I was terrified. I mean, I was absolutely terrified to have to give it to him,
Sure.
and I never had to give him the one that was stuck up in the cabinet, thankfully. But it just made me feel secure to
Right, better than
know
going to the
that
hospital.
he's safe. Yeah.
And the
It got to
stress
the
that it
point-
causes him.
Yeah. It got to the point where I would go to the hospital and I was like, my son's having an asthma attack. And he's like, well, how do you know? And I'm like, because the way he's wheezing, and he's like, he would ask me all these questions. I knew exactly, what was going on. He's like, man, he said, this happens to you a lot, doesn't it? And I was like, yes. I said,
Yes,
I
it
know. I
does.
said, I know exactly what to listen for. I know what's happening. Trust
Mhm.
me.
Right. You can
Right.
tell by the way the veins in their neck are moving.
Yes.
I mean, you just know.
Yes.
And it's scary for them.
Mm-hmm.
It
I'll
really
never
is.
forget the first time that he was actually old enough to talk and went through it, and he's just coming there, Mom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we gotta go.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, it is. It's
That's
it's
hard.
scary.
Yes.
All the added things that,
Parenting.
parenting.
I know. I told Yuri, I said, between the kids and the dogs, like, I'm gonna have a heart attack before I'm 40.
It does get better.
It does get better.
It really does. But
And we've
3,
never had heart attacks. So
That's great.
no.
Oh my gosh, ladies. Well, tonight has been absolutely incredible talking with you.
It has
And
been.
I hope we get to talk to you guys again soon because we
Absolutely.
always love our conversations.
Yeah. That would be really fun. And we are going to be starting a show soon. So we're going to be interviewing couples. So
So
yeah.
we'll be bringing you guys on to ours.
Oh, we are so
We're
ready.
working on it. We are working on it.
Next month, I
Awesome.
think.
Great. We can't wait, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
And, can't wait to talk to you again.
All right.
All right.
Happy parenting. Good luck, everyone.